for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Marsh!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. I am Jimmy Murphy. My co-host Pierre McGuire will be joining us just in about 10 minutes. He's doing his Pittsburgh radio hit with Mark Madden. And when he joins us, we will also be joined by the new general manager, but a regular here on the Eye Test, of the Los Angeles Kings, Ken Holland. So you want to stay tuned for that. He'll be on in about 10 minutes as well. And we will ask him how the new job's going, his plans for the offseason, and get a deeper look into that. But while we're here and we got a little extra time and free time, I urge you to throw some questions up. We'll do a little early Q&A, and whatever we don't get to, we will then get to after we talk to Ken Holland in the second half of the show, as we usually do. Quickly, though, non-hockey related, but for people my age, just saw this coming across the wire. Sad news. George Wendt has passed away. Rest in peace, Norm. One of the best TV characters of my generation, I think. And that was a great show that my dad introduced me to in an early age, and lasted on up until I was about probably in high school. But just a great show. So rest in peace to George Wendt. Just a great character. I was just telling our producer Shane about it off air. He's a lot younger than me. Did not know about it, but I'm sure if he watches some old episodes, he will be laughing hysterically, specifically at George. And I'd say Cliff too. Those are my two. Oh, Woody was great too. They're all great. Sam, they're all great characters. But Norm was something else. I like to think of myself up in McLean's in Montreal. I felt like I was Norm at times because that's how welcome they made me feel. Anyhow, let's get into the hockey news. Before we talk about the conference finals, which will start tonight, Carolina versus the Florida Panthers, highly suggest everyone to watch our episode yesterday with our good friend Trip Tracy, who is an analyst for the Carolina Hurricanes, gave us great perspective from the Hurricane side, really good insight. So watch that for sure. They start, game one of their series against the Florida Panthers tonight, and then Dallas Stars host the Edmonton Oilers in game one tomorrow. Quickly, too, I want to say one thing, and we'll get into it later with Pierre. I don't know if you watched the press stuff coming out of Toronto. I've seen snippets. I haven't watched it in its entirety. I plan to do that at some point tonight or early tomorrow morning. But what I've seen so far, not happy. Not much accountability coming out of those players. Not even out of the coach, who I think is a coach that usually represents accountability. I felt like he was a bit too easy on the players. I get it. It's only 1 year he's been there. He doesn't want to burn relationships right off the bat. But at the same time, I think there needed to be a little more pointed but fair criticism of the players in that situation. So I'll check that out later. Maybe we'll get into that a little with Pierre today or tomorrow if we have time as well. But looks like we do have a few questions over there. So let's start it off. What do we got? Alex Evanowski asks, how come the NHL has never tried to get into Indiana as a market? I feel like Indy would be a good market. I know they love basketball, but they only have two sports there. They're surrounded by Illinois and Michigan. Of course, Alex, a good question. I think Pierre will probably answer that a little better, but they do have Fort Wayne Comets, who Doc Emmerich is a huge fan of, as we've discussed here in the show. I know that I want to say they had an IHL team. I think they were called the Racers. Pierre might be able to help me on that when he comes on. I'm not sure on that, but yeah, they've had some minor league teams for sure. I think they have a USHL team, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I don't know. Something maybe they've looked into. They just don't see the potential right now. I think when you're talking about, the upcoming expansion, which there will be soon, I think the markets we've discussed, Kansas City, Atlanta, and Houston, maybe Portland. So those are markets that I would be keeping in mind. I think eventually a team will go back to Arizona. Just because of the grassroots hockey that was built up there. I know that the pro team had a lot of issues, obviously, with the arenas and their ownerships. But I think the NHL does want to get teams back there. All right, next question. Alex Evanowski, how would you fix the Leafs? Well, there you go, Alex. Is there another player in their pipeline that is coming up that could impact the team like Nyes did? I mean, Easton Cowan is the only guy that comes to my head right away, Alex. You know, like I don't think there's one guy that I think other than him that's maybe NHL ready next fall. They have to really replenish that pipeline a lot like the Boston Bruins. Excuse me, the team that I'm with a lot. And as I see somebody was asking about Sweeney, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, that's something that they're going to have to look at. I think right now, though, obviously their focus is on the NHL level team and filling that roster out with guys that know how to win and guys that can come in and take this team to the next level that they've been unable to get to for so long. So next question. Steve Lash, Jimmy, thoughts on the 2-year extension for Don Sweeney? I was reading that some coaches were hesitant to commit to the Bruins if Sweeney was on an expiring contract. Yeah, Steve, I did report. I had 2 sources confirmed to me that was a main reason that Rick Tocchet would not even consider taking the job in Boston, was because he was so uncertain of, Don Sweeney's status at the time when I wrote that. And obviously now he has that extension. But at the time, he could be looked at as a lame duck GM. I think there was a feeling that he'd get extended, but still, even though he's extended, it's only 2 years, right? So that's not that much. So if you're a proven coach, right, or even an up and coming coach, and you want to grow with the team, and they're looking to like grow the young kids and grow the coach together with them, you hope you can get more than 2 years. So what happens in 2 years when Don Sweeney's done, if he is done? What happens if that doesn't work? Does the coach go out the door as well because a new guy that comes in wants to replace him? Who knows? It's a tricky situation there, but I think that signing today had a lot to do with what's been going on with the coaching search there. As Elliot Friedman reported, they had looked at up to 15 coaches. I don't know how many of those sat in for interviews, where there was 1 or 2 or more in terms of the number of interviews. I'm not sure, but I think that they wanted to let it known, and this is not something the Bruins usually do when it comes to the term of a contract. They don't usually make that public, but I think they wanted to get the message out there to potential coaches that, hey, you at least know that the guy that interviews you and potentially hires you is going to be here for the next 2 years. But you know what? We will get back to those questions in a bit, because now we're going to bring in another general manager in the NHL who was just hired by the Los Angeles Kings, and also joining us is my co-host, Pierre McGuire. So let's bring in Pierre and Ken Holland right now here on the eye test. Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Yourself? Can you hear me?
Not bad. Kenny, congratulations. We're very excited for you.
Thanks. I'm excited myself. Excited to be back.
That's great.
You never left. Let's be honest. You never left.
No.
I know how hard
I just wasn't getting paid, but I was watching hockey every night.
I know how hard you worked. I know how many games you watched. You never left.
Yeah. I'm excited to be back and work with Luc Robitaille, a former Red Wing that we were together in 2001, 2, and 3 there. We won a cup together in 2002, and great job by Rob Blake. They had left a real good team. They had a great regular season, and disappointing last 4 games, but certainly a team's in a real good place. To Rob Blake and all their staff.
Kenny, I want to ask you just, and I guess you could factor in a little what you just said there. What attracted you most to this job in getting you to agree to take it?
I think it was a lot of things. At this stage of my life, with my wife, family was important, and we're Midwestern people. We've basically been in either Western Canada, British Columbia, where I grew up. My wife's from the prairies. We were in Detroit. We were in Edmonton. So we have 2 good daughters in Calgary, 7 grandkids. So certainly being West was probably a factor. Luc Robitaille was a factor. The job that Rob Blake had done in building that team, it's a good team. They finished like 5th or 6th in the league in points this year. So they got some really good young players: Byfield, Laferriere, Brandt Clark. They have some real good leadership, good veterans. I think it was all of the above that really factored into the decision for me to sign up with Luke, and obviously Luke's a big part of it. Mr. Anschutz, great ownership, been a great owner in this league for a long, long time. When I flew out there, I spent some time with Dan Beckerman and Luke. Great leadership, great vision. So all of the above really added up to the decision.
One of the things that's interesting about Kenny, Jimmy, that a lot of people don't talk about, the international experience that Kenny has. Mm-hmm. And Drew Doughty's been part of those some of those international teams that Kenny's been a part of. Have you had a chance to talk to Drew at all about where he sees the organization? Obviously, a 2-time Stanley Cup winner and Olympic gold medalist.
I did. I was out there in LA for about 4 or 5 days. I'm back here for a few days just to get Cindy, and we're going to go back out. We've got to find a place to live. So I'm working out of BC here for a few days this week.
Do you need a mortgage? Do you want a mortgage?
That's right. But I did spend about 90 minutes with Ansi Kopitar, spent about 90 minutes with Drew Doughty, spent a good hour or so with Adrian Kempe, so it was at an opportunity. They were still in town. So that worked out good for me. And I got to kind of tell them about, my thoughts, my vision, my style, get their thoughts on the team. When I'm a manager, I always like to talk to the leadership group, in advance when the season's over, in advance of July 1, to get their thoughts. They're in the locker room. They're playing to get their thoughts. So unfortunately, I was able to spend some time with them, spend some time with Jim Hiller, Luc Robitaille, and get everybody's thoughts on last season and going into this off season.
Hey, Jimmy, before you go, because he was talking about Jimmy Hiller, who obviously worked with Kenny in Detroit when Mike Babcock was there. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of radio in Pittsburgh, Kenny, and there's a lot of talk, and I worked with DJ in Ottawa. There's a lot of talk about DJ Smith potentially going to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I just asking on the record, have they called you for permission to talk to him? And if they have, do you know where those talks are progressing?
I know that nobody's called me, but I know that before I got there that there was some calls. So I would think that was done. But my feeling is I don't want to hold anybody back. Right. When you've got people, that's why you want people to use that your opportunity to get a bigger, better job elsewhere, because it's good for you, and I think it helps recruit. So anybody that wants to talk to our people that we can't move up and give a bigger job, I would not want to hold back. So I've known DJ for quite a while. My son worked in Toronto for a couple of years, team services, when DJ was there as assistant coach. I think he really had a real positive impact on the LA Kings, and we're hoping to keep him. But if there's an opportunity to be a head coach elsewhere, definitely wouldn't hold him back.
Thanks, Kenny. Appreciate you sharing that.
Kenny, from afar, you've gotten to watch Byfield from afar there, right? And I just wonder, as you've watched him, whether it was when you were with Edmonton or just in the past year, what have you noticed the most about the way his game has grown? What's impressed you the most?
Well, he's getting more and more confident. He's becoming a bigger part of the team. Mm-hmm. Like many young players, when they're on the team, they've got reduced roles. His role is growing. It's hard to find 6'4" players with skill. That's why he goes top 2, 3 in the draft. Mm-hmm. I think he got off to a bit of a slow start statistically. But he had, 20 something goals and 55 points. He's 22 years old. So I just look, I always talk about, when you draft 18-year-olds, you really wanted to get them to be 23. That's sort of the age in my mind when they start to become important pieces of your team, other than the special few that can do that when they're 19, 20, 21, the McDavids and the McKinnons and a few of those guys. So, but Byfield, Quinton's just becoming that age. Like he's just going to be coming to be 23 years of age. Obviously took a big step this year, became a real important part of the team, and he's going to become more and more, more minutes, harder minutes, tougher matchups, and you got to grow into that. And I watched a lot living in BC all last year, and I loved it. Games come on at 4 o'clock and 7 in the east. So and then I loved the West Coast games come on about 7 or 7:30. By 10:30, I was wrapped up with my work and watching games. So I watched lots of the West Coast, Vancouver and the LA Kings. I watched a lot of their games. Warren Fogle obviously was a player we had in Edmonton. I wanted to watch how Fogs was doing in LA. So I did watch a lot of the LA Kings games this year as it turned out. And, Byfield really grew as a player. And again, he's just coming into the age when he's really, they take another step. So I've got big hopes and plans for him to really be a real impactful player for the LA Kings.
Well, you were a Stanley Cup winning general manager for a lot of different situations, and 97, 98 are two of them. 2002, 08. You've been through a lot, and you've been a lot of competitive matchups. What about Anaheim? You talk about young players. How much are they on your radar screen?
Well, they're a real team in the move. Obviously, Pat Verbeek, I hired him in 2008 as a pro scout in Detroit, and I actually talked to him here about a week ago and told him this was actually before I got the LA King job. He called me about something for my opinion on something, and I had told him that he's done a tremendous job in that core of players there that he's got with McTavish and Cutter Gauthier and Lacombe and Dostal in net and Carlson. They've got a real core of young players. So looks like we're going to have a tremendous rivalry again, LA and Anaheim. And it's good for California and it's good for the league, but they're a team that's on the move. And our people, myself, we like our team, but there's, when you look at the job San Jose, Mike Greer's doing with the players that they're getting, the young players. So there was a time when you were nervous about going on a road trip through California. And, it comes in ebbs and flows. And certainly it looks here going forward over the next few years that California trips are going to be harder and harder to get points with what's going on.
Totally agree.
Kenny, as we mentioned before, you had a couple stops as a GM. Like, when you get a new job and you're looking at this new job in front of you, what are some of the lessons you look back on that you've learned that you think you can apply now to help this team take the next step?
Well, first off, from a timing standpoint, taking over May 7th in Edmonton in 2019, I understand the time frame of the things that need to happen between now. You really rebuild your team from whenever your season's over until probably the middle of July. And then the last 6 weeks, there might be some players out there, but for the most part, that's your window. The draft, trades at the draft, free agency, you got your player development camp. So the next 6 weeks are going to be critical to all 32 teams in terms of 6-7 weeks of team building. I think a lot of the pieces that I'm talking about, that you're talking about, lots of them are in LA. That's how they had 105 points. Great leadership, veteran leadership. They got a goalie that's a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. Had a great year. Darcy Kemper. Some real good young players. LaFerriere, Brant Clark, Quinton Byfield, and they've got some others in the system. So they checked good. I know that when Scotty Bowman came to Detroit in 1994, that was, I think, one of his messages to the Red Wings. We had to check better, keep the goals against down. And I think ultimately that was one of the keys for us to win the Stanley Cup. This team checked. It was the top 5 team in the league in terms of keeping the puck out. So that's a real important part of it. So I just got to continue to try to build on the things that Rob Blake and his people have done. Watch some of the young people grow. And then is there a trade or a free agent signing that we can make here this year or at the trade deadline over the next year or two to kind of enhance our team, make it different, make it better? Those are the things that are going to try to accomplish here over the next, first off, the 6 weeks, and then the 6 to 18 months.
I know how much you watch Is there a trend in the league right now that's saying, you know what, I've taken over in LA, I've got to address this with our team?
Well, I think one of the things that's going on is in playoff time, going to the blue paint. I just, it's sitting in the situation room there for 10 days in the first round of the playoffs. It gets ramped up from however it is in the regular season. It's in order to score with, you're playing the top half of the league. It's the top half, they all know how to, they're in the top half for a reason. So, they know how to block shots and get in lanes, and they have good teams. And I think that you have to play a certain style to be successful in the playoffs. And when I went to Edmonton, those were some of the things that we had tried to accomplish over a number of years of building. Is part of it is internal growth. It can't be all a big trade or a big free agent signing. It's got to, sometimes it's little tweaks and little pieces on the fourth line, or little depth, and then sometimes it's trying to change the makeup of your team or adding a guy or two that plays a little bit different. But you got to forecheck, and you got to be on your toes, and you got to put pressure, and you got to go to the blue paint, and you got to take space away. So like I said, there's lots of those players in LA. I will look to see here if I can kind of add to it and going forward.
Kenny, you mentioned maybe looking out at the free agent market, but just in terms of some of the guys you have to address, Gavrikov and Kuzmenko, obviously key parts of that team. I know you just got on the job, but is this something you're already looking into bringing them back?
I have been talking. I've talked to both agents for those players, and talked to the coaching staff and Luc Robitaille and all the people, Nelson Emerson, and everybody around there, to kind of get their thoughts on the team. And the NHL Combine's the first week in June in Buffalo, and I've basically this week is all phone. It's going to be talking to GMs, talking to agents, letting people know I'm back in the business, and talk and see what people are thinking about, not only in terms of other teams, but the agents for the players that you just talked about. And I'll have a lot of conversations this week. Next week I'm going to LA. We have our amateur meetings. I'll be tied up there, and then I'm going to Buffalo, and we're going to have pro meetings, amateur meetings, and more talks with agents and general managers to see what we can do over the next few weeks.
Well, I couldn't be happier for you. I don't have any more questions because I don't want to put you on the spot. You've done so. I'm so happy for you. I know how bad you wanted to get back. I'm thrilled to death for you, Kenny. Way to go.
Thanks, Pierre.
Congratulations. We appreciate you taking the time, Kenny, and hopefully we'll see you around soon. All right. I'm going to be out in LA. Both of us might be out in LA for the draft. So if not, we'll hopefully
if you're out there, you guys give me a call. I'd love to go for a coffee with you.
All right.
I could use an unpaid advisor, and that's where you guys come in.
That's good to me. Hey, I'm always looking for experience. There we go, my friend.
Okay.
Thanks,
guys.
Kenny.
Anytime.
Thanks,
All
Kenny.
right, Ken Holland, the new general manager of the Los Angeles Kings, join us here on the Eye Test. Pierre, so happy to see that smile.
I'm so happy for him. You have no idea.
Yeah. The game's better with him in it.
Well, I didn't like saying that because I think that's a bunch of poop.
Oh, okay.
I'm just telling you, so many people say that to so many different people, and the game's really good. Kenny Holland's just an excellent general manager.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know what happened in Edmonton, and I don't care. The fact is he moved on, and he's landed on his feet, and he's in a real good position, and he's going to make a big difference. He's got, you know what? And they need him to be there, because I'll tell you right now, Anaheim's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't, that marketplace is going to be smoking hot.
Yeah, I agree.
And San Jose's coming too. He said it.
Yep.
He said it. I'm watching this World Championship, Canada against Sweden, and I'm watching Celebrini play with Crosby, and I'm going, holy man, this kid's he's not even 19 years old yet. He doesn't turn 19 till June. He's not afraid of anything. I'm watching this guy, and I'm going, holy mackerel, buckle up. And so the game's really good. I'm just happy for Kenny Holland that he's back in it.
Yeah,
I'm really happy.
I hear you. I wasn't suggesting the game is bad. I just like him in it better because I think that part I would see. Yeah. Yep. But I think too with that team, Pierre, because I think we can all agree, and he alluded to it. They're there, right? They just kind of need to find a way to get over that hump. And part of getting over that hump might be beating his former team in Edmonton after not being able to do it for the last few years. So he can bring a lot in terms of that and what he saw with that team and bring a different perspective there. But I just think for a team that's close, that, as he alluded to, has a veteran core that's still in place, I think a GM with that type of experience, that's won the Stanley Cup, that knows so many people in the game, has learned so much over his course of being a manager in the game, I think it's a perfect match. I really do.
I agree. I told you right from day one when Rob Blake, who I like very much, got fired, I said, there's one guy they're going to hire. It's going to be Kenny Holland. And I knew right away. And I knew because of the relationship he had with Robitaille in the early 2000s, when you win a cup with somebody, it's a lifetime bond. And they obviously won the cup in 2002 together. They talk a lot. They were on the same general manager or leadership committees on the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Fame, but in the competition committee and all those things. And they're both Hall of Famers. And that's a special group to be a part of too. So I'm happy for him. I'm thrilled for the fans in LA. They have, and this is why Kenny's so good. He acknowledged right away what Rob Blake and his staff had done. He acknowledged that.
He did it 3 times, actually.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. My late great friend Ray Sherrill would call me all the time when he took over in Pittsburgh, and he would always say, I will never not acknowledge Craig Patrick for everything that he did here. And when he got to New Jersey, he always said to me, I will always acknowledge the greatness of Lou Lamoriello and what he meant to this organization. And he did. And I think you hear Kenny do that. Not everybody does that, by the way.
No.
Like, not everybody does when they get the job. Some guys say, I got to clean up this mess that this guy left me.
I know. Or, Pierre, or they might not say it themselves, but they sure do make it leak out into the media. I'll tell you that. Sure
gets leaked out pretty quick. And because you've been on the receiving end of some of those leaks.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. And Kenny just handle himself. So, that's just how he is.
And the other thing,
it's a tribute to the show. It's a tribute to the eye test and to our faithful viewers and listeners that Kenny comes on this.
Yeah.
We have never had a no from any hockey person.
Nope.
We've had no's from media members. We have, just to be totally transparent. We've never had a no from anybody in hockey.
Yep.
Mike Keenan. I can go down the line. Mike Keenan, Scotty Bowman, Kenny. You go look at all the people that have come on.
Yep.
Over the course of the almost 2 years we've been doing this. Not one hockey guy has said no.
I'll tell you what, too, Pierre, and I don't think Kenny will mind me saying this too. He said originally we were going to do this on Monday, and and obviously he's busy as anything. He's got tons of meetings coming up, probably meetings.
Yeah, golf yesterday.
And the new ones popping up, right? So, I know it, I get it, but he was so apologetic, and he says, you give me your schedule for the rest of the week. We're going to make this work. And I said, okay, this is what we got to, I said, we're open anytime for you, Kenny, but these are the time slots. Yeah. And by the way, too, for our viewers, tomorrow we will be pre-recording 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern.
That's on me. My fault. I had another commitment that I have to do, and it's a 2-hour deal that I got to do, and I'm not golfing. Yep. It's a hockey-related issue that I have to deal with.
And so I said that's open too. We're going to be a different time, but right away he gets back to. So I fell asleep after I texted him because we're in different time zones, and it's about 11:45 at that point my time, and I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and there's the text that came probably an hour after I fell asleep. He goes, Tuesday it is. Don't worry, I'm going to be there. I can't wait. I love coming on with you guys. So that's just the type of guy he is, And I just wanted our listeners to know that
he's a guy's guy. What's cool when he said that? He goes, I love being out on the West Coast because
the games
started 4 and then the late game started 7 and he can get to bed.
Oh my gosh.
But I have to tell you, the first time I heard that, it's a good story. I'll make it fast.
It's okay.
I'm with the late Pat Quinn, and I don't know, it's relatively late at night and we're just hanging out together, talking, some hotel lobby bar. And he said, you know what the best part about being in Vancouver was? I'm like, no, Coach, what was it? He said, the early games. I could watch the early game, go home, meet Sandy, his wife, have dinner with Sandy, and watch the late game at 7 o'clock. But it wasn't a late game for me. It was a regular time.
Yeah.
That's the first time I'd ever heard anybody say that. And then afterward, you start hearing more and more guys say it. But I remember the late Pat Quinn telling me that. And I was like, when I heard Kenny say that, I just had a flashback to Coach Quinn. That's what
Pierre, I just remember when I covered that 2011 Stanley Cup, and I'm out there for the road games in Vancouver. And, you know, they were earlier. They weren't too earlier because of the late starts because it's the Stanley Cup final. But, you know, I'm getting done with my writing by like 8:30, 9 o'clock their time. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's only 9 o'clock. It was great. Still could get a nice dinner after. And I'm not getting to bed late. I'm not rushing home to get to sleep. So I had to get up for the morning skate and all that. And I'm like, I could get used to this lifestyle. I really could. It was nice.
It is nice. It's very nice. Kenny's, I'm just so happy. Like I can't even begin to tell you how happy I am for him.
Yeah. I love what he said about DJ.
I'm happy. Yeah. Well, because you know what? I think DJ's probably in the hunt to get that job. And if he gets it, just as happy as I am for Kenny, I'll be equally happy for DJ. You know, I put a lot of time in working with him. And he had a tough gig going. He had a really tough gig because we were in the middle of a rebuild. And he had a lot of good young players, and he knew it. But it's hard to have all young guys.
Yes.
You know, it's hard. And he had pretty much all young guys. And so, you know, that's the thing that I just thought he did a really good job in that situation. I thought he did a really good job.
You know, and Pierre, I think I know the answer to this, but just for our listeners, I imagine you're the type of manager that too would not want to hold somebody back from advancing their career, because we still see it amazingly, but I don't believe in that. And I love when I hear a general manager say that.
I had that happen once, and it was great. I was honored and flattered that it happened, but I look back at it years later and I was like, that wasn't right. That wasn't right. Because the person that did that to me eventually moved on before I had the chance to move on.
Yeah.
And that set me back a little bit. Anyways, it's no big deal, but I had it happen once. It's all I'll say.
Yeah.
And it kind of ticked me off at the time, but you learn to live with it. It's just part of the deal. That's what it is. It's just part of the deal.
Quickly, before we move to our sponsors and my picks and the Q&A here, just your thoughts. I know we chatted a bit about it, but just your reaction to some of the stuff you heard coming out of Toronto today.
First of all, I thought Craig Berube handled himself really well. Somebody in the Leafs PR department needs to learn about punctuation. That sign that they had was not good. So when you do it, they'll have a debrief and they'll say, who did the sign? And hopefully the whole PR department will say, we all did it.
Yeah.
No good.
Yeah.
No good.
Lesson learned. Very big lesson learned. But
I thought Coach Berube was very good. I don't know. It can't be easy for the players. This is the second time though that I've heard Mitchell Marner speak in past tense. When he said it meant a lot to me, meaning being the Leafs, rather than it means a lot to me. And then today he used another past tense phrase, and I was going, okay, he's not staying.
He's set sail in his head.
He's already out the door.
Yep.
You know, he's fast Freddie Briscoe. He's down the street with his Ferrari. He's gone. And then I don't know how easy it is for anybody there, but I looked at their roster. I don't know. I'll show you all my. I don't want to show too much, but
yeah,
I got a lot of notes. Okay,
that's a typical day for Pierre.
That's what I do in the mornings, and that's what I do at night. But anyway, so I was looking at different permutations of their roster. Guys they could afford to trade, guys they could afford to just move on, guys they got to keep, in order for them to stay competitive. So I got like 3 different roster permutations that could work for them. It wouldn't be friendly for a lot of guys. Like some guys would be ticked off at it, but some guys will be really happy, I don't know what the fans would think of it. There'd be some hard stuff going on though. Like I don't want to give you the names because I don't think that's fair, especially now to those guys. But those papers I showed you, those are probably like 10 to 12 papers of just rosters on it for the Leafs, but they're all different permutations.
Yeah. The one thing that's been a common thread, Pierre, that I thought and I was hoping we'd hear less of from their leadership core. And well, I shouldn't say leadership, but more so from Marner and Matthews.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to single them out, but I think it's important for a guy wearing a C to not always say we. For sometimes you got to say I made this mistake. I need to do this better. I need to improve on this, and so on and so on. I just think maybe this is the writer in me. I don't know, but it just, to me, it comes off better. It comes more off as he's really truly owning it when he says that, as opposed to we, or when he said the other day there were too many passengers. Because in my eyes, there were times where he was one of those passengers. I wouldn't say all the time, and I do credit him for battling through an injury. But at the same time, it's just one thing I learned, and I learned this a lot when I got to cover Mark Recchi. And you know that Mark never took a night off. And that's just the way he was.
The guy played with double pneumonia the Olympic year. I was doing the games on TV.
Played with kidney stones.
He was playing with but he was double pneumonia. You know how hard it is to breathe?
Yeah. So that always stuck with me from covering him and hearing him say that, even when it wasn't any of his fault, he would always say I. So that's just this one little pet peeve I had to get off. I think it just sends a better message. And I think there needs to be more of that message to the fan base going forward, because I do think they have to get that fan base back a bit, because they're just not happy right now, and rightfully so.
I think somebody from upper management needs to go public what actually was ailing Austin Matthews, because he said today that this is something that happened in training camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take him at his word, because I believe him. I don't think he has any reason to lie. So it begs a couple questions. Number one, what was wrong with him? How did it happen in training camp? That's number one. Number two, if he was injured so badly and you let him go to Germany to get treatment, why did you let him play in the Four Nations if you knew he was hurt all the way back to training camp and he was clearly not 100% this entire year? Why'd you let him play in the Four Nations? Because when he came out of the Four Nations, he wasn't any better. And who cares? Like, now you think, Jimmy, think about it now. And we're not being hypocrites. We worked at it, and we were treated amazingly well.
Yep.
Who really cares what happened at the Four Nations now? Does anybody care?
Yeah. I'm with you now on that. I'm so with you. And
does anybody care? Like, I'd rather be watching the World Championships than watching the Four Nations.
Yeah.
And I know I'm loving watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I can't wait to watch the Memorial Cup. And I watch the American Hockey League, and I've been watching the East Coast League.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who cares about the foreign? So anyway, my point is, somebody in management needs to address this publicly.
Pierre, you say it. You taught me this. Sometimes a player needs to be saved from himself.
Yes.
And it's not a knock on the player, because the player is showing courage playing through it. And he's showing his passion for the game and for his team and the fans. But at the same time, sometimes there just needs to be that person in front of them saying, no, you're not going out there. You're not going there. You're not going to the Four Nations. You're not going into this game that's meaningless. We've already clinched. That's that. And I know it's easier said than done. I've never been in those shoes to have to be that person to say no to the player. But sometimes it needs to happen. You've been there, I'm sure. It needs to happen.
Look at that. We've had to tell players, sorry, you're not playing tonight. You're not playing tonight because you got this wrong with you. And the player's like, what do you mean? You can't do that to me. We're like, we're doing it. Yep. It's not easy to do.
No.
But you got to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that's something that has to come out of upper management. I don't think that's something that Austin needs to talk about. I don't think that's something Craig Berube needs to. I think that's something that Brendan Shanahan needs to talk about, or Brad Treliving needs to talk about. Yeah. I don't think that's part of Keith Pelly's domain.
No.
You know, he's got the compass. He's got to look at the whole globe of things. Yep. But when the message comes out, it's got to come from either Brendan Shanahan or it's got to come from Brad Treliving.
Yep.
About Austin in particular. And if I were an intrepid reporter in Toronto, I would ask the question, what was your evaluation process before the Four Nations, and why did you let Austin Matthews go?
Yep. I'm with you on that. All right, let's get to our sponsors and then to my picks and the Q&A. Let me tell you about TCS Customs Logistics, as we do every day, where you can go and unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consultings. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And of course, our wonderful friends over at Betway, where you can go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200, even if your first bet loses. That's right. You get paid to lose. So go there right now. This is only available for new customers. So if you don't have a membership, go to that QR code right in front of you. If you're watching, if not, if you're listening, go to the website, go to the details section, create the account there, and redeem your welcome offer. Terms and conditions apply. This offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 plus and always bet responsibly. Let's go to my picks of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right, Pierre, we're going to go to game one. All right, I gave you my series picks yesterday, so now we're focused on game one of the Eastern Conference Final today in Carolina. The Carolina Hurricanes come in as a minus 130 favorites. That line has shifted a ton, just so you know that when I say that, that means that originally they were actually the favorites, and now I see that, I mean, they were the underdogs slightly. They are now the favorites. That means there's a lot of money coming in on Carolina right now. Well, I think that's a good move. I like them to win. I'm going to take Carolina on the money line at minus 130 in game one, and I'm going to give you a goal scorer prop. Compliments of our great interview with Trip Tracy yesterday, Pierre. I'm going to go all the way down to a guy that hasn't scored yet, but he's due. And you like him, and Trip likes him, and we all agreed he deserves a goal, and that's William Carrier at plus 800. Plus 800 anytime goal, William Carrier to get that goal tonight in game one for the Carolina Hurricanes. Let's get to the Q&A. All right, Alex Evanowski. Is there some, oh, by the way, before we take this question quick, Alex had a question. We did a few questions before you came on, Pierre. And Alex said he thinks the NHL should at some point look into putting a team in Indianapolis or Indiana. Do you think that could ever happen? Why or not? Why not?
I don't think they have the population. I don't think they have the disposable income. That's a reason why they don't have a Major League Baseball team. They're surrounded by Illinois. They're surrounded by Ohio. They're surrounded all around with pro sports teams. It's really tough. It's a tough. I don't see the NHL being able to go there. They tried in the WHA. They had the Indianapolis Racers. They tried. They really tried. I went to the Halliburton Hockey Haven when I was a kid, and one of our coaches was a guy named Ken Desjardins, and that's how it was pronounced. And he was an Anglophone from Ontario. He ended up coaching the Bramalea Blues when I was a coach at St. Lawrence. But he was a good hockey player, and he played there. But they tried. They just couldn't get it done. I get it. I mean, I totally get it. It's just not an easy.
That's
not an easy deal there. But I'm all for expansion. I think we need expansion. I really do.
It's coming. All right. Back to Alex's question just now. Okay. Is there someone in this draft class who's not going in the top 10 or 15 that you really like as a player, like in the next tier? I heard you talk about the drop off in the coming draft. Alex,
go ahead.
I just confess, I don't know enough right now, so I'm not going to give you that, but I'm starting to do my draft research, and I will try and give you some guys that I think could be sleepers.
So I'll go again. I'm working on it, Alex.
There we go.
I'm working on it. I'll let you know. I'm not comfortable telling you anything right now. I need to do more video evaluation, so I'm working on it.
I noticed, though, one thing I just being on social, he's right. I mean, Pierre, every time I go on there, it looks like players' rankings are moving up and down.
We've been telling you that. Like I knew most of the kids in this class, and this is not
right.
I know this is a giveaway. When you start seeing teams trading around first-round picks like they're free candy, they know what you and I know.
And it's like what you said before. There's going to be recency bias for sure. Oh yeah, huge. All right. Next question. Justin, will this year be an easier or tougher year to trade up or down? I think easy. I won't say the word easy, but easier.
Easier is the right term. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, would you trade Swayman or try to trade him right now? Not yet.
Well, wait a second. If you trade Swayman, who's coming in? Who's your goalie?
That's a great question there. Is Korpisalo going to be your number one?
No.
That's the problem. I don't
No,
think
no. Well, if you want to do that, I guess you won't be able to live up to what Cam and Don said and Mr. Jacobs said. We're not just a playoff team. We're a deep playoff team.
Yeah.
If you trade him, you're not doing that. I'll tell you that right now.
See, I don't think they will. Would I? I would at least look at it. I'm not saying I would, but I would see what his value is. That's all I'd say. All right, next question. Vincent Yoyal. Hello, gentlemen. I was at the last game in Winnipeg. What a crowd. That must have been great. Do you think other medium-sized cities could make the NHL expansion? What are your thoughts? P.S. I missed the Hartford Whalers.
I don't think Hartford's getting a team. I hate to say that, but I don't see that happening. I could see Atlanta getting another opportunity. I could see Houston getting an opportunity. I could see the potential if they could come up with some territorial understanding of a team north of Toronto on the 401. So I could see all that. I don't see any it's hard for mid-sized markets. Winnipeg's very fortunate. They're so fortunate that they have amazing owners. Amazing owners.
All right, next question. Ethan Russell. Could you see a lot of teams offer sheet Zetterlund?
No. Can I ask? Wish Ethan answer this, Ethan. What did Zetterlund do in the playoffs for Ottawa? Send Jimmy your response, please.
Or you can say, Shane will get it. I don't think he's at that point yet, Ethan. I think the kid has potential, but he's got some work to do. I agree with Pierre. He's got to improve a bit. All right, next question. Steve Lash. Holland mentioned that he won't get in the way with respect to DJ Smith interviewing in Pittsburgh. He didn't mention Mark Bergevin. Well, to his credit, Steve, we didn't ask him. If the Islanders pass on him, does Holland bring him back? Steve, I wish we asked him. I don't want to speak for Ken.
No, I didn't. No, there's a reason why I didn't ask him.
Okay. So I don't know. I'm not sure. But I'll tell you what, from the reports out of Long Island in the last 48 hours, I think he might be landing a job there in some capacity.
So just so everybody, Steve, and this is for everybody else out there, the leakage coming out of the Islanders is on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They're gauging the temperature of the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And this is all being, I don't think Mark's doing it. No. But yeah.
I'm with you on that. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, nothing. There you go, Ethan. It wasn't a bad question, but I mean, we have to point it out. I mean, what has he done to get an offer sheet yet? You know, I think Ottawa would keep him. It's not going to cost much to keep him. No. All right, next question. Randy Workman, do you think Shanahan stays in Toronto? Randy, I'm just going to give a no. Flat out no. I don't. You're not ready to go there yet, Pierre?
No.
Okay. Next question. Ian Lewis, thinking outside the box and a little bit in dreamland, do you think Thomas Hertl could be pried out of Vegas? What are their needs in return? I see him as an excellent 2C for the Habs.
Very good point. So while I'm talking about this, Jimmy, I want you, for Ian's sake, to pull up his contract and read the terms of his contract. And this is the problem that I think is going to happen for teams that inquire about Tomas Hertl. There's a substantial amount of time left on that deal.
He's only in year 3
of
8.
He's an injured player. And what's the financial number, Jimmy?
8.1 cap hit, modified no trade clause throughout.
Yep. So that's the problem. That's why I asked Jimmy to pull it up. The contract is very difficult to pry out of Vegas. Very, very difficult.
Yeah. And why I don't think, in terms of a Montreal perspective, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I think why not try? And I can see where you're going with it. On the Vegas perspective, Pierre, I don't know if you agree with me on this. You said this a couple days ago. They don't have patience. They want to win now. They're like Tampa. You know what I mean? They're not worried about specs and all that. That's what Montreal has to offer. So I think they'd be looking more like, okay, you're going to trade me him. I want somebody that's going to come right into my roster right now and have the potential impact that he could have.
So what about the modified no trade? I'm going to be willing to bet money that Montreal's not on his list of teams
Yep.
to be traded to. So I don't think so.
All right. Next question. Juice_031-017. Pierre, what is your favorite memorable Stanley Cup playoff series you have ever called?
Bruins Vancouver was really special in 2011. That was really special. St. Louis Boston was really special in 2019. Watching Ovechkin win in 2018 was magical. Being there was really special, especially for Ovi. You get to know a guy since he's been 14 years old. You see him win. It's pretty cool. Of all the ones I've called, I'm going to say Game 7, Boston-Vancouver was really special because it was two amazing hockey markets, and the travel was barbaric. It was tough, but it was worth it. It was really worth it. It was a great Stanley Cup final.
Yep, I'm with you on that. What about Crosby's first, Pierre?
In 2009, it was good. Crosby's was good. No, it was really good.
Yeah.
The thing was kind of the lopsidedness of a couple of games, especially Game 5.
Yep.
So the drama wasn't as great. I think the drama became bigger, obviously, when Pittsburgh won Game 6. And then they forced 7. So that was kind of cool about that. But it's hard to beat that 2011 one. I'm telling you, there was so much up and down in that one. It was good. Timmy Thomas was amazing. Timmy Thomas was amazing.
And then, of course, being on the ice with Rex in that interview.
That was pretty special at the end with Mark.
All right, next question. Juice_031-017. I know that, there you go. I know the 2011 Boston Bruins won the Cup, but was the 2019 team a better overall team, even though they lost to the Blues? It's a tough question.
Based on Game 6 in St. Louis, they were, I'll tell you that. Oh, man. I don't know.
Why I'll say no, I think they're very close. I'll say no because I think that 2011 team beats the 2019 Blues because they could play the game that the Blues were playing better. They could play that physical game better than that Bruins team could.
Yeah, that's probably fair. All
right, next question. Ethan Russell, do you see an NHL meeting with TNT and ESPN after the season to hold some higher standards? Could you see the networks take a different approach next year? I hope this isn't an uncomfortable question, Pierre. If it is, you do not have to answer, but I'll just chime in quickly. Yes, and yes, and yes. I think there needs to be a serious discussion. That's all.
I'm not comfortable saying that, but all I'm going to say is standards need to be followed. There needs to be certain protocols that need to be followed that I don't think are being followed right now. The numbers don't lie, and they can try to cover it up all they want by saying, oh, look at all the big teams that have been knocked out or didn't make the playoffs. Too bad. Tough luck. You're supposed to grow the game. It's not a comedy show. It's a hockey game.
All right, next question. Sheldon Hughes, if the Habs can't get one of the popular names for 2C, what are your thoughts on William Karlsson being an option? Good two-way center and great on faceoffs. Sheldon, I like it.
Boy, Sheldon, I don't know if you were listening to my tie. I was talking to my son today. We were working out together, and I was talking about William Karlsson. I couldn't wait to watch him this afternoon play for Sweden against Canada, and the answer is yes. He would be an outstanding acquisition. I just don't know if he's available. I honestly don't know. But that is – Wild Bill Karlsson is one of the most underappreciated centermen out there. He is such a good player, and there's so much consistency in his game. Really a lot of consistency.
Yeah, I'm looking at his contract right now. He's got two seasons left at 5.9.
Yeah, it's not crazy. It's not a crazy contract.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, next question. And by the way, Sheldon, are you related to Kent? Perlo Wisdom, would you say that Pittsburgh makes the most sense for Marner?
Well, I think obviously people are going to speculate that because of Dubas being there and Spezza being there. And there's obviously tie-ins with both of them. So, and if DJ Smith goes there, to Pittsburgh. And I'm not saying whether he is or isn't. And if he does go, I'll be the happiest guy in the world for him. But remember, Mitchell worked with DJ in Toronto too. So there's a lot of tie-in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of tie-in.
I do think they're a very strong candidate. I still like Nashville. So those are two teams.
Don't punt on the Rangers.
I'm not punting on the Rangers.
Punt on the Rangers.
Other team, I don't know why it keeps coming up in my head, Pierre. I just don't know.
Detroit. Buffalo.
You know, you're gonna totally call me crazy right now.
No, I won't.
San Jose.
Why not? You get a chance to play with Celebrini.
I know.
And Will Smith.
Does he want to go into a rebuild?
Well, it's not only that; it's that and
the taxes.
It's not. Well, yeah, that too. But it's not Toronto. I mean, it's far from. He's an Ontario guy.
So that's one of the things I think would attract him to it. Like, he's getting away from. It's a complete opposite of the madness he's been dealing with. And I wonder if that would be a nice change of pace.
Maybe.
All right. Next question. Nashville could be too, though. Kachuk went out. Kachuk went on LTIR right at Four Nations. Could Matthews have gone on LTIR as well to obtain health? And how does management initiate the extent of an injury?
Just have a medical report from the doctor.
Yep.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, it could have happened for sure. All right, next question. Derek Arendelle. Hey, Pierre, as a Nova Scotian myself, could you ever foresee the city of Halifax getting an AHL team back?
It's a legendary American Hockey League city. I wish they would. I thought the American League back in the day when they had teams in Cape Breton, when they had teams in Moncton, when they had teams in Fredericton, Freddie Beach, as they used to say, Halifax. It was an awesome league. It really was. It was really special, Jimmy, back in those days to go up there and, you know, you take the highway through Maine, you know, the Maine Mariners, and you go right up to the Maritimes. It was great. Do I think they could do it? I guess they could, but you know, major junior hockey is really big in the Maritimes right now. The major junior teams have done a really good job, especially in Halifax. So I don't know if the American League even wants to go in there. And the other thing that's tough, the Canadian dollar right now is just so draconian for these teams. I just think it'd be hard. It'd be really hard to go back into the Maritimes right now. But congratulations to Halifax, all those teams, Moncton, you know, Charlottetown. Our farm team when I was in Ottawa was in Charlottetown. It was awesome. Congratulations to all those junior teams out there. They're doing really good work. Really, really good work.
Sure. All right, next question. Mike, Berube mentioned today that Stanley Cup winners have some sort of luck bouncers go their way. I agree, but do you not agree that you have to put yourself in those situations to get the bounces? Mike, I agree with you.
All true and true, but I would say this. You always have to slay the dragon at least once over the course of a playoff run. Sometimes it's more than once. And they had the opportunity to slay the dragon in Game 5 after they lost both games down in Florida, and they didn't do it.
They
didn't do it, and they let Florida off the mat. And then you're in trouble. So, you know.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, Pierre, in the final meeting before the draft between the scouts and GM, how heated does it get?
Oh, it can get really heated. I've seen guys come this close together and want to get after it. Everybody defends their own territory, which I admire and respect. I would never want a scout that doesn't have a strong opinion. Mm-hmm. I think it's really important to have scouts that have strong opinions, but you have to know that their opinion is informed. They're not just throwing from the hip. They've done a lot of research. They've done a lot of work. There are a lot of boots on the ground kind of intel gathering. So, yeah, they're heated. The answer is yes, they are, which is good, not a bad thing.
All right, next question. Sound the siren. According to Wikipedia, Pierre McGuire was a multi-sport athlete, including baseball and football. My question is, how much heat was Pierre packing on the mound at Hobart College?
The problem was that heat wasn't the problem. The problem was the deuce. The deuce would hang and it would get pivoted right out of the building. That was a problem for old Pierre. He couldn't throw the deuce really well. The heat was fine. It was just the deuce didn't work. And then people would sit back when the deuce would be wide, high and outside, or low and inside. then I bring the heat and I just see you later, alligator. They'd be boom out of the park.
Oh boy.
So that was my problem.
All right. Next question. FFFF. Hey guys, can Pierre explain to us how Carolina runs their power play? It seems that wingers change positions, and is there a continuation? And if
Well,
not,
the one thing I'd say about Carolina's power play that's just so, and I told a bunch of coaches at the college level over the last few days, they should use video of how Carolina does their entries. They have the best entries in the league. Their entries are phenomenal. And I think part of that is because Rod's such a good penalty killing coach, along with Jeff Daniels, his assistant, that they know what the opposition's doing. And so they say, okay, if they're doing this, we got to do that on the entries. So one of the things that makes their power play so good is their entries are good, and Carolina's a really good face-off team, so they don't lose a lot of initial draws. So that's a big part of their schematic on the power play, their entries and their face-off plays.
All right, next question. Derek Rendell. Pierre, when the second line center position is brought up, the same 5 to 6 names pop up. However, the name I think of is Kadri via trade with the Flames. Is that a viable solution? You've said you've loved that idea, but I just
I wish I knew if it was available.
That's the thing.
But I would say that would be a tremendously viable option.
Let me know he's available.
I could just see Naz going into Toronto as a Montreal Canadian, or going into Ottawa as a Montreal Canadian, or going into Boston as a Montreal Canadian. I'm just I hope Naz has friends that watch this. I'm a big Naz guy. He knows from the World Junior. We spent a lot of time together. I really respect him as a player and as a person. He's a really honorable son. He's a good guy. I like Naz a lot.
I've always liked him, and people, fans I know here in Boston used to hate me for saying that when he was with Toronto. When I was
but of course, I mean, what do you expect? They're Boston. I get it.
But it's funny. Like, so I had this one fan write me one time, Pierre. I wish I probably still have it in an email. He said, "Hey, Jimmy, I was in Toronto and randomly bumped into Nazem Kadri, and man, were you right. What a guy he was." And I was like, that's all I was trying to tell you. You don't have to like him on the ice. I'm just telling you, the guy's a great guy.
Nah, like I said, he's a great son. He's a great teammate. He's a great person. He is. Yeah. That's great.
He does a lot for his community. All right, next question. Hockey Puck. Hello, gents. Trading for Horvat. What would the Habs have to do to bring him to the table, and is he worth it? Pierre, there seems to be a lot of Horvat wishing in Montreal. I don't know where this
don't have a GM yet. Let them get a GM and let's see what the GM says.
Yeah.
This is a peculiar thing, the whole thing on Horvat.
But you're with me, right? It's more, and it's not just people here on the show. I've seen
a lot.
I'm not knocking anyone.
No. We like Horvat. This show likes Horvat, but I just don't know where all this is coming from because they don't have a GM.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's putting that stuff out. Maybe his agent. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right. I think he's a great player. I don't get the buzz around him right now. All right, next question. Big Bill. Hey, Jimmy, have you ever heard Pierre, I don't know if you heard, Norm from Cheers died. He passed away today.
Oh, no way.
I found out right as we were coming on, and I was talking about it a bit.
No way.
I brought it up, and this is why Big Bill's asking us. Hey, Jimmy, have you ever heard the interview Mitch Melnick had with Jim Jeffries when he spoke about John Ratzenberger? It was funny. Yes, I heard it, Bill. It was great. And Mitch, as every interview he does, was great.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Good character. I was teaching Shane about him. Shane did not know anything about Cheers. But I said,
Jimmy,
go watch.
Have you ever been to the bar?
I have, but I always felt like it didn't feel like the show. It was cool.
But I'll let this out. I was a young coach. I was probably 24, 25, coaching college. And I used to do a lot of hockey school. So one time I was at one of the rinks downtown Boston. I forget which one. Maybe Walter Brown or Harvard. I forget. And afterwards, a bunch of the guys said, "Hey, let's go over to Cheers." And I thought they were messing with me because I had never been there. I had no idea. I was a college guy. I had no idea. So they said, "Follow us." So went down, parked the car. Back then, it wasn't hard to park in the summer in downtown Boston. We walked into Cheers. I was like, "Wow, this looks just like Cheers." Like it did. It did. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, this is cool.
They've changed
I
it.
want to say, where's Normie? Where's
Yeah.
Normie?
Yeah, they took the original one. It doesn't look anything like that anymore. That's the problem.
Oh, is that right? They changed it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As he always said, Pierre, it's a doggy world, and I'm wearing milk-bone
underwear.
All right, next question.
Oh, that's good.
Juice_031017. I know it was 20 years ago, but which NHL teams would have had a great chance to win the Stanley Cup during? That's a great question.
I love this question.
04-05 season if there hadn't been a lockout.
I love that question. I love that one for sure.
You think Calgary taking back?
04. No, I don't think they were making another.
They were a Cinderella team, eh?
They were, but they did it.
Yeah.
Daryl coached his butt off. Daryl Sutter coached so well in that series. All their players, like Jerome McGinley was phenomenal. Craig Conroy was great. Kippersoff was a huge story in goal. Tampa won in 04. Happy Boulin was so good back then, Jimmy. I don't even know if you remember. Happy Boulin was he was at a whole other level. They had like Brad Richards won the Conn Smythe. They had Marty St. Louis. They had Vinny. They were all in the prime of their career. I think Tampa might have won again, Jimmy. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think Tampa would have had a legitimate chance to win it again if they hadn't had the lockout.
What happened? I forget who knocked out Detroit in that playoff. Do you remember, Pierre? Was it Calgary?
I'm just trying to do the math here. That's a long time ago.
Let me go back to that. Because there's a team I can't.
Well, Detroit was in Detroit back then. They were in the West. They weren't in the East, Jimmy. They were in the West.
That's right.
I'm
pulling it up right now.
Well, wait.
It was Calgary.
Was it Calgary?
In the semifinals, second round.
There you
6
go.
games. Yep. The conference finals that year was the Flames over the Sharks in 6, the Lightning over the Flyers. Oh, the Flyers were great in those days. In 7.
So during
There you go.
During that Western Conference final, Gord Miller and I went out for dinner with Mark Howe in San Jose. It's a great story. I'll make it fast. And Mark says, "You're always talking about how great my father was." I'm like, "Yeah, your dad was amazing." Like as a kid growing up in Montreal, watching him and Alex Del Vecchio come into the Forum was amazing. He goes, "Well, let me tell you something. I was his teammate in Houston. And some of the guys were giving my brother and I a hard time. And one guy in particular, he wouldn't tell us his name. And he said, my dad skated up to him in practice, his own teammate. He said, if you don't stop this stuff, I'm going to take care of it. And the guy started laughing. Then Gordy wasn't going to do anything. The next time Gordy's on the ice with this guy, he knocked him out cold. He knocked him out cold.
You warned him.
And Mark said, hey, my dad warned him. What he said?
What are you doing? He warned him.
He just laid him out cold. And Gordy was back to practicing. It was no big deal.
I never met Gordy. I always wish I did.
So last time, so he was very good friends with Chuck Caden. Because he was a Hartford Whaler when Chuck was there at just starting out. And he and Chuck were amazing friends. And to the day that Mr. Howe passed away, Chuck was really good friends with him. So I met him. I had a chance to meet him a lot. And the last time I met him, he was in the coach's office in Detroit. Mm-hmm. I was doing a game that night, and he was there and had a great. Back in those days, like Ted Lindsay had a locker in the Detroit dressing room. He'd go in there and work out. Gordie Howe was around. Like it was a who's who.
Wow.
You walk in, like there's Ted Lindsay, and you're like, he might be 5'7", maybe 5'8", but I'm going to say more like 5.
Care. Yeah,
and
he was amazing.
Jimmy, like he used to beat the bejesus out of so many people. And you're like, look at him going, how could he have done that?
I know.
There's no way. Just had to be unbelievably mean. And when you met him, he was like, couldn't have been nicer. Hey, kid, I'm watching all
was the nickname Terrible Ted? Was that the nick? Yeah.
Like, hey, kid, I'm watching all the games. He give you this whack in the back. You'd be like, oh.
That's great.
Oh, he was good
stuff. Well, that's it for our questions here. Great stuff. Really good questions there. Some good stories and insight. And of course, big thank you to Ken Holland, the new general manager of LA Kings. He was wonderful for joining us here on the eye test. Again, We appreciate it, Ken. Good luck to you in LA. Thanks to Shane working the boards. Thanks to all of you in the question section and all of you listening and watching at home. We'll be back tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow is a pre-record, so it won't be a Q&A, but save them for Thursday. You know we'll get to them because it's our favorite part of the show. Enjoy the hockey tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.